Trump's Ukraine policy is a massive success. Well, what the Trump administration did was say, we're done being the only supporter of your military defense. Trump's Ukraine policy is a massive success. This is Steve Gibson reporting. Recognition to Tiger Logic for their production value. Please remember to like, subscribe, and follow so that I can continue to provide you these observations. Well, Europe just committed a $100 billion loan package to support Ukraine and Ukraine's defense against Russia. Those out there that maintain that the United States needed to be the single financer of the Ukraine defense effort were wrong. When the Trump administration basically said to Europe, you need to step up to the plate. Ukraine's defense is squarely in the self-interest of Europe directly. There are those in the mainstream media and the Democratic Party that recoiled, said that all of the money that the Biden administration spent was going to be wasted, that Russia would then overtake the Ukraine, and that it was important for the United States to continue to spend hundreds of billions of dollars of United States taxpayer money on the defense of Ukraine. The Trump administration said, no, Europe, it's time that you step up to the plate, you spend the money, we don't need to do so anymore. You also need Europe to spend at least 5% of your gross domestic product on supporting your own military and contributing to the defense of NATO. The Democratic Party and the mainstream media thought that, the Trump administration is ruining our relationship with our allies, that this America first, go it alone mentality is destroying decades of goodwill that the United States maintained with its allies. Well, what the Trump administration did was say, we're done being the only supporter of your military defense, Europe and the rest of the world. We've done it for 70 years. It is high time that you step up and do it yourself. Now, this report in the Wall Street Journal within the past couple of days that Europe has committed $100 billion or more of loans to the defense of Ukraine is an absolute indication that the Trump gamble, to the extent it was even a gamble, is tremendously successful. This is not insubstantial. For years and years, there has been a debate about what to do with the Ukraine, that we need to have a submission of military goods or technologies to the Ukraine, that if we don't defend the Ukraine as the United States, then it was going to create cataclysm for the United States' interest and for Europe. Well, none of that has come to pass. Now, I'm not saying that there was an absolute guarantee that if the United States stopped sending tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars to the Ukraine defense, that something bad might have happened. But it was a strategic calculus on the part of the Trump administration that has demonstrated itself to be the strategically prudential path for the administration to follow. And there's got to be some credit given to the Trump administration in this regard. What I find amazing is not only is the mainstream media not discussing the Trump victory in terms of policy when it comes to the Ukraine, not only aren't the Democratic Party officials discussing the Trump victory when it comes to the Ukraine, but even the Republican Party isn't discussing the magnificent result that we have with respect to the Trump policy. Understand what's happened here. We spent, in theory, more than $300 billion in supporting Ukraine. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that could have gone to other programs in the United States that even the Democratic Party candidates would have applauded. And that money has gone down to a mere trickle, with all indications that the Trump administration has basically said to Europe that you need to be the ones that are primarily supporting your European neighbor. Well, what else has been incredibly instructive in this process? And that is that Russia has not been able to take over Ukraine. In fact, recent reports indicate that counteroffensives conducted by the Ukrainian military have been very effective in dealing with areas of Russian military deployments, including around Kharkiv and in the south sectors. So the calculus by the Trump administration was doubly correct. At one level, it was correct that the United States need not have been the primary country to finance the Ukrainian defense, which it was doing at the beginning phases of the Russian campaign. But it was also correct that the Russian military was not going to be successful in overrunning the Ukraine. This is also a fascinating counterpoint to the actions by the United States with respect to the Iran conflict. All estimations in terms of military surveys had the Iranian military as one of the most effective and powerful militaries in the world, certainly within the top 20. Those same estimates did not have the Ukraine having as effective a military as Iran. Well, in the matter of 30 days, as opposed to 4 years, the United States military has devastated the Iranian Air Force, the Iranian Navy, the Iranian nuclear program, the Iranian air defense systems, and if the United States military wanted to, they could take out much of the civilian infrastructure that could be used to support military operations, and that may very well occur if negotiations do not continue. On the other hand, directly a neighbor to the Ukraine, instead of having to field naval and air forces literally across the globe, as the United States has done with respect to the Middle East, the Russian military has not been able to take over Ukraine despite deploying well over 1 million soldiers, deploying their air force as well, and having naval capability on the border of Ukraine as well. In fact, much to the contrary, what has happened is that a good number of naval ships have been taken out by the Ukrainian military forces. The air superiority, the alleged air superiority on the part of the Russian military has not successfully taken out sufficient military capabilities on the part of the Ukrainians. And there have been more losses of troops by Russia than there have been by the Ukraine. Well, this demonstrates a few things as well. One, it demonstrates the tremendous technological training and strategic superiority of the United States military. That was evident in our raid to capture Maduro, where the Venezuelan protective forces stood in amazement while a fraction of forces swooped in to Venezuela and extracted Maduro with very little, if any, level of losses or casualties on the part of the United States. And again, the United States force was a mere fraction of a number of protective defense forces that were deployed in Venezuela to protect Maduro. All of this is highly instructive to the world, but also highly instructive to the United States voter. We need to applaud what has transpired here in terms of policy and execution. In terms of policy, we captured Maduro brilliantly. In terms of policy, we are not spending hundreds of billions of dollars anymore on the Ukraine. The Ukraine is surviving, and Europe is having to step up to the plate. That was a gamble. And if we can't appreciate that gamble has paid off in spades for the Trump administration and the United States of America and the United States taxpayer, then you're deluding yourself. This should be a story that is being told every single month, at least, by the United States media. I don't know why they're not making these observations. They ought to be applauding the fact that we don't have troops on the ground in Iran, and that we are strategically modulating our strategy as we go. We turned the policy on its head. Instead of the Iranians being the only ones to attempt to control the Strait of Hormuz, the Trump administration says, you know what, two can play at that game. We're going to put in a blockade that's going to stop you from making $500 million, I should say, of revenue every day. If the Iranians don't make that revenue, they don't get to pay their military. That revenue is being used to support the Revolutionary Guard. If the Revolutionary Guard and the other military is not being supported, they're not going to be in a condition to deal with any uprising. This is a chess game that is being played successfully by the Trump administration. When President Trump was asked recently in the White House, well, how long is this going to last and what is the cost? His answer was basically, yeah, there's going to be some momentary effect on our gasoline prices that were already brought down considerably by Trump administration policies. But by doing that, the American citizen has successfully eliminated, at least for a considerable period of time, a nuclear threat posed by Iran. That is a fundamental calculus that we will never, ever know the true dimension of its success. We will never know what would have happened if Iran did, in fact, have a nuclear weapon that could be used against the eastern seaboard. And the reason we will never know that is because we took that capability out. If by hindsight, the American administration in place allowed that nuclear weapon to come into being, then we would have learned how prudential and effective today's strategy is, and the momentary blip of gas prices that we're experiencing right now would be looked upon as a very, very small price to pay to have no Iranian nuclear capability whatsoever. Moreover, we need to keep things in perspective. The gas price went down considerably when Trump administration policies were administered over the past year to be able to unleash the American economic forces that were producing more oil. And by capturing Maduro and opening up the Venezuelan oil industry, we're also able to put that oil supply on the market. Both of those things are mitigating the fact that there is a momentary increase from what it was effectively under the Biden administration to today. Folks, you got to put things in holistic perspective. And that holistic perspective is that the Trump administration, while it has many flaws, and I have many podcasts in terms of how it has to do things better, has performed brilliantly with respect to Ukraine. It has performed brilliantly with respect to border control. It has performed brilliantly with respect to Venezuela so far, and I will advocate that when at the end of the day, it's going to be seen as having performed brilliantly with respect to the Middle East. Could it be doing better in other respects? And could Trump not tone down some of his rhetoric and be a better speaker and be more focused in terms of engagement? Absolutely. But the alternative is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who frankly, at some level, mislead the American public with respect to their rhetoric almost every time they open their mouths. We need a systemic approach to foreign policy that is much, much closer to the Trump administration than any return to a Biden regime and certainly a Kamala Harris regime. I can't even begin to imagine what the world would look like today with a Kamala Harris administration. Would we be spending hundreds of billions of dollars more unnecessarily on the Ukraine? Would we be supporting economically the military defense of the European Union and NATO unnecessarily? Would we have opened up Venezuelan oil? Would we have kowtowed to China with respect to Taiwan? All of those things appear to be true. The Trump administration's successes in foreign policy and immigration alone require us to applaud those efforts. This is Steve Gibson reporting. Please remember to like, follow, and subscribe so that I can continue to provide you with these observations.